Ocean of Light, a short story by J. Narayan. Providencialis Island, Turks and Caicos, 2001. I stood on the boat's edge, one hand on my mask, the other gripping my flashlight and over my weight belt, and I took a giant stride into the ocean. As twilight dissolved, our group of 8 gathered together on the surface and prepared to descend. This was my 5th night dive, but as the full moon had just passed, it was promised to be something special. When our team leader, Jean-François, gave us the signal to descend, we released the air from our buoyancy vests and submerged into the dark water. I went upside down, head first, and followed my flashlight's golden beam towards the bottom. I pinched my nose, blew air into my ears, and equalized the pressure all the way down. We reached a depth of 40 feet, stopped for a preliminary check, then navigated to the reef. Jean-François was my buddy diver, my partner, and I appreciated being at the front of the group with a pristine view of the ocean ahead, except that it was pitch black and seemingly lifeless. We maintained a depth of 40 feet, with the bottom not too far below, and came upon a sculptural reef formation growing on the edge of a small shelf. There was a gorgeous collection of corals, and it was soothing to glide above them. I spotted a small cave within the reef and went over to explore. Jean-François had mentioned before the dive that I could drift around within a reasonable distance. I maneuvered into position, exhaled slowly, and adjusted my depth with my breath. I descended and laid my eyes on a giant sea turtle resting motionless within the hollow. It fit perfectly inside, as though someone might have pushed it in sideways. This was the largest turtle I had ever seen, measuring nearly 1 meter in length. I pointed my flashlight toward the group and began to draw circles. I then shone my beam at the turtle and drew a few more. Jean-François caught my signal, led the group over, and we floated around and enjoyed the presence of this extraordinary being. I felt a deep sense of admiration for this turtle, and I wondered, how long could this creature stay underwater on a single breath? Note: after the dive, Jean-François said that this was a loggerhead turtle, the world's largest hard-shelled turtle, with the ability to hold its breath for many hours. We shifted away from the reef and swam onward. During our pre-dive briefing, we were instructed on what was coming next, and my anticipation was rising. Jean-François guided us to an ample and flat zone of sand with a depth of 50 feet. We formed a line, side by side, then released the air from our buoyancy vests and sank down onto our knees. Our instructor gave the signal. We turned off our flashlights and became engulfed by absolute darkness. I looked to my right, where Jean-François was kneeling down with the group beyond him. The visual of the glow sticks on the back of their tanks was unique, but I turned and looked straight ahead into the black ocean. After a few deep breaths, I closed my eyes and waited. In time, they would adjust to the darkness. I slowed my breathing, and the sound of the air flowing through my regulator became amplified. Time seemed to stand still, and I am sure this moment tested everyone's courage. As the seconds passed by, I considered just how fortunate I was to be working in Turks and Caicos, with the opportunity to learn scuba diving. Providenciales Island was surrounded by clear blue waters, teeming with life, and floating weightlessly in this new realm was profoundly meditative. I fell in love with the submarine world, especially with aquatic life. During my first ocean dive, Jojo, the local dolphin, swam around us in the shallow water. This was just the beginning of the most wonderful encounters I had with sharks, barracudas, turtles, squid, and so much more. I loved the abstract shapes of the corals, and these fantastic schools of marine life were even more hypnotic, swimming together in a harmonious synchronicity of movements. I also had the 3-time honor of watching Patrick, a world champion freediver, descend into the deep blue sea, once while humpback whales were singing their sublime melodies somewhere in the distance. I opened my eyes to the black ocean. Perhaps 2 minutes had passed by, kneeling in the sand, when at last a tiny sphere of light emerged. This luminous being hovered peacefully for only a short while, then dissolved into nothing. I drew a slow breath, and a moment later, another glowing sphere emerged, perhaps 20 feet away. There was a bright point at the center, with its light gradually diminishing as it expanded outward. As it began to fade away, another sphere emerged. Its nucleus of brilliance was no larger than a fly, but overall, its light occupied a sphere of water larger than a grapefruit. These luminous beings were microscopic organisms that were mating and glowing, and this bioluminescent event was happening in conjunction with the full moon. Before long, another radiant sphere emerged, and then another. One after another, they kept on coming. As the seconds passed and my eyes adjusted more and more to the darkness, progressively more of these luminous beings materialized. 20 became 50, then 100, 200, and so on. Their emergence seemed to accelerate. 500 became 1,000, and then 5,000. They multiplied exponentially until we found ourselves inside an ocean of light, surrounded by millions and then billions of these luminous spherical beings, occupying every square foot of water for as far as I could see. I turned my face toward Jean-François, and we shared an intimate moment of eye contact. He was a special friend, very encouraging of my scuba diving abilities, and all around him were these glowing spheres. We remained motionless, absolutely hypnotized by this spectacular bioluminescent performance, and time slowed down to a halt. We had been transported into another dimension and suspended within an eternal moment of surreal perfection. Eventually, Jean-François' flashlight beamed through this sublime realm of glowing spheres, and they all dissolved back into the darkness. We also turned on our lights and then swam towards the wall, the first continental shelf surrounding the island. This underwater cliff drops from 50 feet below sea level to approximately 100 feet deep. We drew closer, and it was fascinating to see the land's edge surrounded by pure blackness. I finned my way out beyond the edge and found myself suspended within a seemingly infinite volume of black water in all directions. Beyond the wall, there was no sense of the bottom. I directed my beam into the darkness and discovered a 6-foot reef shark swimming beside me, only 20 feet away. Anyone who loves scuba diving would understand why I slowly moved in for a closer look. I drew circles of light onto the shark's silver body, and right away, the bright beam of Jean-Francois's flashlight joined mine. I kept my eyes on the shark, while sensing that our group was approaching from behind. The shark undoubtedly detected this as well, and with a few strong flaps of its rear fin, it vanished into the darkness. As the end of our dive was approaching, we retraced our path, then ascended to the 5-meter safety stop bar suspended from our boat. When we returned to the surface, the night sky was flush with stars, and the waning moon had just climbed over the horizon. I filled my vest with air, lay back, and marveled at the starry sky. Every dive was a gift, but this one would always remain a priceless souvenir from the Caribbean. The ocean is such a mysterious and beautiful place, and I feel honored to have explored her depths and witnessed her magic. The end. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Ocean of Light is a collection of short stories describing the most mysterious and wonderful events of my life, spanning over 25 years of worldwide travel. Gaze at the sun and discover the secrets of India's ancient Surya Yoga practice. Walk up the Ganga River with a Hindu ascetic. Night dive and explore the luminous depths of the Caribbean Sea. Listen to Palo Volador, Noya Rao, the flying tree of light, roar like a jet engine in the middle of the Peruvian Amazon jungle. Feel free to visit Jay Narayan's author page on Amazon. Also available is Amazon Jungle Spirit, the story of my introduction in 2005 to the mystical world of ayahuasca, the Amazonian spirit vine, and join me on my first traditional shamanic master plant diet with ajo sacha on a Shipibo curandero's isolated jungle property on the upper Ucayali River, Peru. Once again, thank you for sharing these sacred moments of my life. And finally, if you want to learn Tai Chi, Kung Fu, or Baguazhang from Wudang Mountain, please send me a message. And check out Wudang Martial Arts on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you, and peace be with you.